All right, so today we're doing what?
The first people.
First people in the. North
America, yes, in the Americas. So we're going to take a look at that. Also mysterious, like what we did last week. Do you remember what we did last week? Who did we talk about last week? India, exactly. Yes, we talked about ancient India, and that was very mysterious because we haven't been able to translate that ancient language yet, right?
No.
Yeah, so we have to do the best we can. All right, and so we know that there was a great civilization in the Indus Valley, as you recall, and not a lot of people were aware of that. Interesting, because as we're looking at the first civilizations, it's one of them. It's one of the big four, right?
Yes.
Right around the same time, they all kind of crop up. But did people know about it?
You said it was the earliest, actually, didn't you?
It's the largest.
The largest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sumer is thought to be the earliest. The earliest is
Sumer.
ancient Sumer,
Oh.
and but Indus Valley rises up, like right on the heels of that. But a lot of the information about it was not known until, remember?
Yeah.
The British invaded.
The British invaded. Yeah, the British invasion. When they occupied India, they found these clay tablets. Remember these?
Yes.
And when they found these, they realized that this is a language.
Yeah.
This has to be some kind of a language, and so they're still trying to figure out what does that say. And so we don't know. We still don't know, and so we just have to go on what?
Well, just the things they recovered.
Exactly. Yes. So we just have to go on the archaeological records, and like Effie says, the things that they have discovered. And what they've discovered is that this civilization in the Indus Valley was the largest of the four that we've covered in this series. It's the largest. They also think that they started farming around when?
7,000 BC.
Wow.
So that's right in line, right, with the other civilizations.
Yeah.
And what they've uncovered is that everyone seems to have lived in these modest homes made out of mud bricks in small villages, and that everybody was what?
They were very peaceful toward each other.
They were peaceful,
Yeah.
yes.
And they didn't have a
Cooperative.
head man or a king. or
Exactly.
anything.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yes. So it seems that everybody was equal on the same level.
Mm.
That they were not part of a caste system. But certainly we know that comes into.
That changed.
Yeah. That certainly does change. But in the origins of this civilization, they haven't found it yet. They could. I mean, we all know that, right? It could change at any time. They could find some great something or other. But we do know that in these villages, in these towns, they were absolutely planned. They were well thought out and planned. Their streets were parallel, and everybody seemed to be on the same level. There didn't seem to be a hierarchy that they know of yet anyways. All right, and what they didn't find was,
Weapons.
They- yeah, they didn't find weapons.
Mm.
Yes, but do we find weapons absolutely everywhere else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yes, yeah, weapons of war, all kinds of, how to kill more efficiently things. Yes, and there was also no indication of kings,
No.
of a hierarchy, of rulers. So it's unique. So it's the largest one, it's the one that's most mysterious, because we didn't learn about it until, later in the 20th century, and we can't read the writing. So it still remains a mystery. And what about religion? Oh, yes. Pat was very taken by the philosophies of Hinduism from last week. Yes, so we took a look at Hinduism last week, and we thought it's very colorful and bright and interesting. There's a lot of intrigue involved in it. It was also fascinating to understand that it is thought to be, it's debatable, but it's arguably the world's oldest continuously practiced religion. Okay? Yep. So it's been around for a very, very long time. And we know about it because eventually what we've got is the Vedas. Do you remember what the Vedas were? What are the Vedas?
Oh, God.
Poetry, exactly. Yes, yes, yes. The Veda, have you heard of the Rig Veda? You may have heard of that. I think that's the most well-known one. But it's a collection
Say the
of
name again.
Rig Veda.
Rig.
Rig.
Yep.
They are a collection of poems, hymns, songs, prayers in 4 volumes. So there's 4 volumes of the Vedas. And we learn about them through the writing, through these books, but originally they come down how? Verbally, exactly. Yes. They are sung. These are sung. And then eventually they're written down in the Vedas. And what was the name of the writing that they had in ancient India? Yes, excellent. Who said that? Wonderful. Yes, thank you. Sanskrit, yes. Yes. So they're written down in Sanskrit, which we can read. So we know what they say, and if we know what they say, then that gives us insight into Hinduism, doesn't it? And we know who the gods are. This is how we know the gods of Hinduism. So we took a quick look at that, and we'll go through it very quickly today. Beliefs and practices of Hinduism. And it was so astonishing to us last week because we look at Hinduism, and that certainly looks polytheistic, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It looks ultra polytheistic with hundreds and hundreds of gods, but it's actually a monotheistic belief system. All right, and the reason for that is because what they believe is one being, one source, actually not even a being, source called Brahman. Brahman. And all these other gods, all the gods that you're seeing, are an extension of Brahman. They're an aspect of the Brahman. So Brahman is the collective whole of all things, including all of these other gods. So Brahman is one universal soul, the formless source of all reality.
That gets crazy.
I know. Effie, it's really, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard. You have to kind of really think about it, and it's difficult to explain. It's a concept. So there's a source, an energy source that emits all of reality. So all of the gods, all of the people, all of the plants, all of the animals, those are emissions from who?
Brahman.
Brahman, yes, all of that.
Everybody's interconnected. We're all connected.
Yes, and yes, that is the belief that we're all connected. So here's a good example of the difference between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, okay? So if you're an American and you're walking along a wooded path and you see this beautiful flower, your first instinct in a Western philosophy would be to pluck the flower and take it home with you, right?
Right.
And you put it in a glass of water, and then what's gonna happen to it in 3 days?
Die.
All right, in Eastern philosophy, if you're walking down a wooded path and you see a beautiful flower, what would you do?
You smell
Leave
it.
there for the next person.
Yes,
Yeah.
you leave it there.
But you
So
can smell
very,
it first.
what?
You should smell it first.
You should smell it first.
Yes.
But would the idea of plucking it even enter the mind?
No.
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 No, that's the why on earth? They think we're barbaric because we're gonna kill the thing that we so admire, and that makes no sense to them, right?
Yes.
All right, so there it's thinking things in a very different way, thinking about things in a very, very different way, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time to do that. And they also believe that the soul is what?
Immortal.
It's immortal, that the soul is the Atman, and the Atman goes on and on and on and on. So the physical body can die and decompose, but what happens to the Atman? It comes back, exactly. The Atman comes back, and that is called the transmigration of the soul.
And you might not come back as a human being, though.
Right.
That's correct. Yes, yep, and we talked about that too. But before we explore that a little bit more, this idea of the immortal soul, the transmigration of the soul, is also indicative of how the Hindus think of time. How do we reckon time?
Well,
Hours, days,
And
weeks.
it's linear, right?
yeah.
You just keep moving forward and forward and forward. But in Eastern philosophy, how do they reckon time?
Is it circle?
Yeah, in a circle, yes. Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes, so it does make sense, Effie. If you look at nature, what does nature do?
Yeah, it goes in a circle.
Dies in the winter, comes back in the spring.
Yeah,
Yes.
it does.
Yes, nature recycles, and all things that we see, everything around us, recycles. And so they believe that not only does the Atman, the soul, recycle, but that time itself is cyclical, all right? And that you're going to go through all these periods of time, they'll play themselves out, run themselves out, and then it's going to start all over again. And it's going to go around and around and around and around. And when you're reincarnated, you can come back as what? We were just saying it.
You come back as an ant.
A plant.
A plant, an animal,
Tree.
yes,
Insect.
an
Man can
insect.
become woman, woman can become man.
Exactly. So, and what determines that? Do you remember from last week? What determines what you would come back as?
How you lived your previous life.
Yes, exactly. How you lived your previous life. And we call that
Karma.
karma. Exactly. So, if you're creating some good karma, then you would come back, how? In an elevated state?
Is
Yeah.
that what they call it?
Yeah, probably in an elevated state. But it would also depend on something else, not just karma, but it would also depend on dharma. Remember that? Dharma?
Dharma. No, I don't remember that. I remember you talking about
That's the one
it,
if
but I
you're a
don't remember.
bully or anything
Certainly
in this
would
life.
be.
Right.
You go down to pay.
Dharma means that the reason why you're reincarnating, the reason why we're all on this hamster wheel, is because we have to refine our Atman so that we can eventually return to the source. So your Dhamma is your life path. It's your path, it's your purpose, it's what you need. And so for myself, there's something I need to learn and accomplish in this lifetime so that I can get to my next phase in my next phase, and hopefully there aren't too many more phases that I have to do, right?
Been here 4 million years, I think you got a couple.
So, yeah, so you don't want to ignore the Dharma. You want to think about what is it that I need to work on. That's a worthy cause for you personally, all right? To try to understand, what is my Dharma? Does the earth herself have Dharma? Yeah,
Probably,
everything does.
yeah.
Yes, everything does, because everything is just trying to get back to what?
Where it started.
Brahman. Yes, exactly. Now, if you do follow your Dhamma, your ultimate goal is called moksha.
I never heard of that.
And moksha is when you do what?
Turn ultimate,
Liberation and freedom.
Liberation from what?
eternal, from everyday living.
You're off the wheel?
You're off the wheel.
Yeah.
All right, moksha means that you no longer need to reincarnate. You no longer need to do that. That you have now elevated to the point where you rejoin
Brahman.
Brahman.
Boy, that would be a hell of a journey.
Yeah, I think we've all been on that. Well, if this is all true,
Yeah.
then we've probably all been on this journey for a really long time. What's taking us so long? Everyone? Yikes.
We need to be better.
I don't know.
Yeah, we need to think about it because we're not thinking about it. We're just living in the lifetime. Now we looked too last week. In Hinduism, there's no religious leader, right? Why would there be no religious leader?
Because nobody's above anybody else.
Yeah, it's like a fingerprint, everybody.
Yeah, but everybody's
everyone's
looking for their own way of reaching
Yeah.
whatever you call them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brahman.
Brahman. Yes, you need to follow your Dhamma, and if your Dhamma is your personal path, how can somebody else, or how can a group of people so there isn't anything like, going to church and we all follow a creed and we all believe in the same thing, because you're trying to, we each have a responsibility to understand what our Dhamma is, to live our life creating good karma, to get to the point where we're rejoining the source. And that is very unique, and that can't be something that you go and listen to a sermon on, right?
No.
All right, it's very, very personal. So that was something we were kind of struggling with last week in this belief system, and then it got a little more complicated, do you remember?
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be monotheistic, and yet there is a trinity of gods. Do you remember that? Yes. There's a trinity of gods, and the first god is Brahma. Brahma,
Yeah.
similar to Brahman, but Brahma is his name, and Brahma is the creator god. Brahma is the creator god. And so last week I used the metaphor of an ocean. So the ocean would represent Brahman, and Brahma is an extension of Brahman. Brahma is an extension of Brahman, who is then creating all the fish and all the plant life and all the things in the ocean. So he's a creator god, and it's hard for us to think of that, because in our mind, the creator god is the most high, right?
Yes.
All right, so it's difficult for us to understand, but thinking about it will start to make sense. And then the second god in the Trinity is Vishnu. Remember Vishnu? Yeah, Vishnu, the preserver god. All right, Vishnu protects the Dharma. So if we start to interfere with the cycle, and we're going to do something before it's time, what will Vishnu do? Yes, exactly, yes. Mickey, exactly, put you back on the right path. Come intercede to set you right again. And maybe the most well-known reincarnation of Vishnu is
Krishna.
Krishna.
Lord
You've
Krishna.
all heard of Krishna?
Yes.
Yes, right? Everybody's heard of Krishna. All right, so Krishna is an incarnation of the god Vishnu, who had to come to earth to intercede so that the earth's Dharma would not be disturbed. And so Krishna did that. And then the last god in the Trinity who remembers. Yes, exactly, Bob. Yes, Shiva, or Shiva, the destroyer god. Now, this is not a fearsome god at all, because if you think of the cycle, it has to end and then begin again, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what is Shiva's purpose?
To destroy that was on previously.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. You're all right. You're all right. To destroy in order to restart it up again, brand new, fresh and new. So now I'm sure that all of Hinduism is perfectly clear to you now.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
You understand it completely?
I'm glad somebody does.
Wow.
It is. It's very deep. And of course, I am only giving you the bare minimum
Yeah.
here because it's a lot, and to go into it any deeper would take a lot longer. But it's a fascinating belief system. Effie, I remember last week you were so irritated by it. You said, I thought they were farmers. Why are they coming up with, how are they coming up with all this deep thinking?
I don't know.
All right, so that kind of wraps it up from where we left off last week, except I also showed you all those unbelievable temples in India. Do you remember that? Yeah. So, yes, so now they have, subsequently, they built some magnificent temples that just blew our minds.
Yeah.
But, so we're going to move on, and this is going to be the last in our series on the evolution of humans and ancient civilizations, because this is the last civilization to emerge, you know, of everyone in Europe and everybody that we know of. The Americas came last, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and this too has a very mysterious past. It's mysterious and it's misunderstood. So we're going to do our best to piece it together, okay? So we've got some very early theories, and I think you'd be surprised. There's a few early theories, but I want to share this one to you because I think it would be probably the most shocking. Do you know that one of the early theories of how people settled in the Americas is that the Native Americans are actually the lost tribes of Israel? Have you heard that one?
Lost tribes of Israel.
Yes, that's one of the theories. It's not
Validity.
no scholar believes in it, but this was put out there in the early 1900s or late 1800s, early 1900s, that the 10 tribes of Israel, you know, when Assyria took over.
Yeah.
I thought there were 12 tribes.
Well, the two tribes we know of, Judah and Benjamin, we know where they are.
Yeah.
All right, but then the 10 northern tribes,
They disappeared.
they said, well, they didn't really, they were just absorbed into
Other
Assyria.
cultures.
But but there's a theory out there that there's 10 lost tribes of Israel, and one of the places where they say they went was to the Americas, and that the Native American people are the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
Yes, that seems far-fetched.
Yes.
Does
Yeah.
it seem far-fetched?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, but that was out there for a little while, and it was being batted around as maybe something serious until 1927. There was an archaeologist who himself is interesting. He was a former slave, and he was a former slave, becomes an archaeologist. His name is George McJunkin. Yeah, George McJunkin. And anyways, he is in New Mexico, and he comes across something. He comes across a bison bone, and that wasn't too extraordinary. But what was extraordinary is this right here. What's this?
It's an arrowhead.
It's an arrowhead, exactly. It's an arrowhead, and it was embedded in the bone of the bison, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if this arrowhead is what killed the bison, which it would seem likely, why is it embedded in the bone, right?
Mhm.
Then that would mean that people, Native Americans, did not arrive in America like 3,000, 4,000 BC. That's what they were thinking. They were thinking it was that recent that people came. But if this is what killed this bison, then that means
Somebody shot it.
excellent, Esther, then that means that the people in America were here at the end of the Pleistocene. Okay, they would have had to have been here this far back, all right, in order to have speared that animal. So that changes everything, doesn't it? That's going to change everything. So now we have to rethink, our theories on this, and they're wondering how did they get here, and if they're around during the end of the Ice Age, then it is theorized that they're following the herds, right?
Mhm.
And if they're following the herds, then at that time there would have been a land bridge, an ice land bridge,
Mhm.
connecting
Russia.
what?
The Bering Sea.
Asia.
Asia to
Asia
Asia.
to,
The Americans.
America.
yes, exactly. And so the people, the Asian people, would have just been able to follow the herds and just cross over this land bridge,
Mhm.
all right, by the Bering Sea. There would have been a corridor, there would have been a way for them to just walk across. And when they did that, all right, they come down, and then they're just going to migrate down into the Americas.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does that seem logical?
It does.
However,
It seems logical,
But
and it fits the Ice Age timeline, doesn't it?
Mhm.
It fits the Ice Age timeline. So this is very, very exciting. And let's see, before we find out whether somebody throws a monkey wrench in that or not, who would they have encountered once
Lost
they
tribe.
came down? The lost tribes of Israel? Bob, that's great.
I think
What animals, what wildlife would they have
the
encountered?
mammoths.
Who was here? Who was here? Let's take a look and see who was here at that time. all right?
Oh, yeah.
Tigers and bears, oh my.
Saber-toothed tigers, right? The
Yeah.
Smilodon would have been here at that time. What about the Mastodon?
Mastodon, yeah,
Yes, yeah, that would be a little scary, I think, right?
it's huge.
Very huge. The animals were really big. Remember the sloth?
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that? How big the sloth was that we saw a
It's
few
huge.
weeks ago? However long ago that was. Dire wolves.
Yeah,
Very scary, scary, scary. And who remembers this animal, so surprisingly indigenous to the Americas?
they can.
Yeah, remember? Yes, you remember that? Yeah, yeah. That's the skeletal remains of a very large camel that was found in America. All right, so they're coming down and they're encountering all of these great beasts, and they're getting way far down into the Americas because what we discover next, have you heard of Clovis points?
Yes.
From Clovis what?
New Mexico.
Go to New
Excellent.
Mexico.
Excellent, yes, Clovis from Clovis, New Mexico, and they are very unique. These spearheads are very unique because they're fluted right here. See on the bottom?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're fluted. So now they're finding these things, and they realize that look at the time frames here.
Wow.
All right, Folsom was where the first one was found in the bison.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yep. So, and these are the different spearheads that were found in the Americas. All right. So they noticed that they're settling. They've gone down south. They're getting closer and closer to Central America, and they think that they've got everything is making sense. Okay, and that it wasn't 3,000 or 4,000 BC, but they were here much earlier. They had to have been here much earlier. Now there's a problem, though. There's a problem. It all fit and it was all nice and tidy until somebody said, wait a minute, why would the herds be crossing?
Over the ice.
Why? Yeah, why? Is there any vegetation there?
No.
Is there anything for them to eat there?
What's during the Ice Age?
Yeah.
Had to be a climate thing.
So does it make sense?
They were looking for Florida.
They were looking for Florida? It's a long ways away.
You mean the lost
Wait a
continent?
How do
But-
they know that the ice was there?
They don't. They're following the herds.
Yeah, well,
All right.
okay.
So if you're just following, and it leads you to where, you just keep following.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's all right for human beings to come across the Bering Sea because there's no ice there. And these other people, the authorities, are saying there must have been ice there and they couldn't get over.
No, there was ice there, and they could get over on the ice. They can get over on the ice.
Well, what did they
But
eat?
why but yes, that's the question. What did they eat? Why would they go in that
You don't
direction?
walk for days and days without food.
Yeah, what would be the incentive?
That doesn't make any sense.
What would be the incentive to
Meat.
walk?
The meat?
There's no meat for the animals to eat. Why would the
Did
If
they
you're-
fish?
hold on to that thought, Dennis. That's a brilliant thought right there.
You
All right, so why would the animals be crossing the land bridge, okay, if it's at the end of the ice age and there's nothing for them to eat? Why would they be going in that direction?
Whoa.
Well,
So that doesn't make sense. So now it doesn't make sense anymore, all right? It goes against nature that they would be doing that because of a lack of vegetation. All right, so now we have another theory of how everybody gets into
So
America.
people aren't following the animals now. This is another.
No, they're, yes.
Okay.
All right, so coastal migration theory. The coastal migration theory, that has problems too. All right, so that's got some problems in and of itself. All right, so the coastal migration theory is the next one that they're considering. And what they're saying is that they get to this area, okay? And what they're gonna do is they're gonna make boats, and they're just gonna go down the coast and bypass all the ice where it's inconvenient. That iciness is inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and Dennis, what would they be able to sustain themselves on?
Fish.
Fish. Are there other resources in the ocean that they could have? Exactly.
Yeah, whales.
Whales,
How
seals.
did they know that they were all these ice sheets?
So if they come down the coast here, could they get down into places like New Mexico much faster?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But they don't know where they're going. They have no maps. What's their incentive to even begin?
They're escaping the ice.
They're nomadic peoples, and that's what nomadic peoples do.
Okay,
All right, that's just what they do.
okay.
All right,
Now,
so they
this-
could, what?
This ice-free corridor.
That's the second part of the theory, that there was a section across the top where the ice wasn't, the ice sheet wasn't,
Oh,
and they
okay.
went and found the corridor between the two
Okay.
and came down on
Ice,
the,
yeah, ice-free
out.
corridor.
on
Yeah.
the east side of the Rockies.
Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, they think that they split.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, so they think that the Asian people that have their origins, their original starting point, had to then split and go into these separate ways. All right, so coming down the coast is going to get them down south and deeper into America much faster. They never thought of that before because they never thought that people would be able to get on the ocean that far back.
It's dangerous.
And now they have to reconsider that. They're totally reconsidering that, and they're pushing back seafaring way back. Remember? Yeah, way back. We talked about that before. All right. So they're considering that. All right. So here is the coastal migration route would have happened then 17,000 years ago. You see how every time they dig deeper, it gets earlier and earlier and earlier. All right, they push it back further and further and further. Now, what's a big problem with this? Why can't we prove this?
Nobody
No
had any
remains.
writing.
No, nothing.
They're
They
on the
didn't have
ocean,
writing, exactly.
No
Yeah.
pottery.
and you
no
don't have
pottery.
bones. Yeah, you don't have
Nothing.
bones if they've been on the ocean and
They
they.
kept moving,
No
they
bones.
remained behind.
Excellent, you're all right, you're all right. If this is the end of the ice age, yeah? End of the ice age, what's happening to sea levels?
Right.
They're rising, so where would all the evidence be?
At the bottom of the
Underwater.
ocean.
Under the sea.
It's a big problem. That is a big problem. All right, so if you had settlements along the coastline 17,000 years ago, we can't dig that up, can we?
No.
No, we can't go out there with toothbrushes and scrape off sediment or anything. It is under the water. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone. All right? Another reason why it's so hard is they have found remains, like Bob was talking about the split. So it seems like these people in both sides, from both sides, cremated their dead.
Oh.
And the reason why we know this is because there were remains of partially cremated bodies, but they're very seldom do you find remains this far back.
Mm.
And so they believe that they cremated their dead, and so there's no, you know how we know so much by ancient burial sites and what people were buried with,
Yeah.
and all of that. We don't have that with this culture. So that's what makes this really, oh my gosh, is it already 10:04? Is that right?
Just
Yes.
keep going.
It's
We're
10
gonna
to
have
4.
to do this next week.
I'm gonna have to, yes. All right, so what we can know, yes, here we go. Because this is gonna be this is like the second half of it. So what we can do is jump ahead in time. We have to jump ahead in time and take a look at the descendants of these mysterious ancestors, and that gives us a little bit of insight, doesn't it? Yeah, it gives us some insight. So the first settlement we have is the Mayan people, right?
Yes.
Yes, the Mayan people, and where did they eventually settle?
Yucatan Peninsula.
Yes, on the Yucatan Peninsula. All right, and they're thought to have been there from 10 to 8,000 years ago as hunter-gatherers, and that they started farming around 6,000 years ago. So they come a little bit later, but it's not that far off from the other civilizations. Here's some pottery, some ancient Mayan pottery. That's pretty impressive, right?
Mhm.
And I also have for you some Mayan patterns, weave patterns that the women did. They're very spectacular, very colorful. And what?
Very colorful.
Yes.
Very beautiful, really.
Yes. Yes, beautiful. And this is the writing. They have a writing system.
Oh,
Okay.
they didn't
And
even-
they're
Really?
what?
That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, they do. It's like really chunky.
Mm.
Yes. Now, their writing system caused quite a stir a while back, some years ago. Do you remember the Mayan calendar?
Mhm.
Right, see,
I remember that.
Calendar stones.
Yeah.
All right, remember the Mayan calendar scare?
It was
And what that was about was,
Oh, the end of the world.
It was the end of the world.
yes, the end of the world.
No stones.
It was supposed to be, according to the Mayan calendar, it was supposed to be the end of the world on December 12th, 2012.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
According to the Mayan calendar? But the misunderstanding, and then everybody was very, very nervous. Did I say? It was 12/21/2012. 12/21/2012 was the date. And the reason why that was misunderstood, all right, was because what people were reading was the end of that calendar, not understanding that there was another, all right, that it's going to start up again. It was the end of an age, okay? Not the end of the world, but the end of an age. And it caused quite a stir, and it was all around everywhere. People were worried about that. You missed that? Oh, well, that's a good
I either
thing.
missed it or I forgot it, one of the two.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because people were very nervous that the end of the world was coming. Okay, so they also have a belief system that is similar to European belief systems, where there are 3 levels of existence. All right, there's the heavens, there's the underworld, and then where do people live?
In the world.
In the world.
Yes,
On the
yes.
earth.
On the earth, in the center, in between. So you have the gods of heaven, and then you have the gods of the underworld. And when you die, they believe in an afterlife. When you die, where do you want to go?
You want to go to heaven.
Oh yes, you want to be with the gods of heaven. Now, we had a great find. This is Lord Pakal, all right, and I'm going to show you the tomb of Lord Pakal, who is trying to get into the heavens.
Set amid lush forest in southern Mexico, Palenque is not the largest Mayan city, but it is one of the most stunning. Its architecture, sculpture, and carvings are among the finest this fascinating civilization ever produced. Palenque was also technologically advanced. A sophisticated aqueduct system provided the inhabitants with abundant spring water. In the 7th century AD, Palenque is ruled over by a powerful king, Pakal the Great. Pakal has the longest reign of any Mayan monarch. He ascends the throne in 615 and rules until his death 68 years later. During this time, he oversees the construction of some of Palenque's most impressive sacred sites, such as the massive central palace and the iconic Temple of the Inscriptions. Here in 1952, archaeologists made a discovery that gave a new insight into what the Maya believed about life and the afterlife. Excavating the temple floor, they uncovered a passage to a chamber deep within the pyramid. It contained a sarcophagus covered by a stone lid. Within lay the remains of a Mayan dignitary wearing a jade death mask. Hieroglyphs on the sarcophagus confirm his identity. This is the tomb of King Pakal himself. But even though it is a place of burial, it is also intended as a place of resurrection. The images on the sarcophagus lid illustrate a central Mayan belief that the universe is made up of 3 levels: the earth, the underworld, and the heavens. Having departed this world, Pakal emerges from the underworld and is reborn into eternal life in the heavens. This is the essence of Mayan religion.
Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, can you imagine going into that tomb and finding that and then removing the lid and you seeing that jade funerary mask? Like, yeah. Yeah, wouldn't you jump back a few feet? All right, what are we looking at here?
Their food.
Beans.
Chocolate.
Oh.
Chocolate. Who do you think invented chocolate?
The Mayans.
The Mayans invented chocolate. So before we move on to another culture, we just want to say thank you to the Mayans. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, so I guess chocolate originates in Mayan culture, so I really appreciate that so much. All right, now, so here, let's talk about the Inca. Okay, the Inca, they're much further south, right? Where are they? Do you know?
Yeah.
Peru, exactly, yes. And do you know that the Inca people, they believed that they were created specifically by the sun god, and they were given civilization as a gift by the sun god. All right, they had a golden rod, and with this golden rod, they had to wander around and stick it into the ground until the golden rod easily went through, and that's how they knew this is where we're going to create our civilization. Well, I don't know why they needed a rod, because these people can create a civilization anywhere. Like absolutely anywhere. And they can farm absolutely anywhere. They are known for their terrace farms. See right here?
The llamas like it.
Yeah, yeah. So they create these, they're on the most unforgivable terrain, but they create these terraces and they're able to farm them. It's really amazing. Pat, you've been to Machu Picchu? Yeah. Now the other thing about the Inca is that they did not have a language, all right, but they ran this great empire using something else. Do you see these ropes?
Yeah.
Yes, This is a system where they could trade, and the knots in the rope meant something specific. And that's how they communicated, and that's how they traded. Isn't that interesting? Here's an explanation. All right, so this would be a symbol, and then that's a symbol. I mean, it's writing, but it's using rope. Isn't that amazing? You won't find that anywhere else. There is nothing else like that. It's extraordinary. Here's some more.
Overhand, no.
So that's how they're communicating, and what they're doing is that they are recording what they sold or what they bought. So each knot would mean, maize or a lamb or something, and then you would count how many of them. It's just incredible. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Look at that. All right, that's their form of communication. And then you see too, Machu Picchu here. You see that? They built this. Do you know that they had the wheel at the time, but they didn't use it?
Oh my.
You find wheels on toys, on children's toys, but they didn't use wheels. Now I've got a little clip of Machu Picchu, and I want you to see this. Hold on. It's just,
Machu Picchu.
yeah, Machu Picchu. How did they do that?
I don't
And
know.
why did they pick such a hostile environment to do
It's-
it in?
Well, they think that was a celebratory place.
Yes, yes.
And they also think that the mountains are so remote that there are many other of
Ye-
those
Yes.
civilizations
Yeah.
all over that haven't been
They have
discovered yet.
new, that's such a, thank you, Barbara.
And the
So,
Spanish also destroyed a good many of the things when they
That
came
was
in.
the Mayans.
but,
But they
well,
did-
let me
they
tell
didn't
you
know
something.
about
Let me
that.
just tell you this, okay? Let me just say this. Barbara's point is exceptional, because they now have new technology. It's a light something radar,
Yeah, they,
and they can scan through thick forest
they.
and get an outline of the civilizations under, that they couldn't possibly get to before. So you just go over in a plane and you can get an outline of buildings and these huge cities. So it is so much greater. Yeah, it's so much greater.
LADAR, they call it, LADAR.
LADAR,
Yeah, it's lights,
yes, that's it, yeah.
light detection and, I think, rating. But they
Yes.
can remove,
So do they know what wiped them out?
Well, let's get to that, okay?
yeah, that.
Let's let's get to that, because I have a meeting at 4:15.
Okay.
Oh, you're
All
gonna
right.
be late.
I'm gonna be, I don't wanna be late for that.
yeah.
Okay, so the Aztec civilization, and then the clips I have for you, I will show you next time, because I don't want you to miss out on them. They're pretty,
Okay.
they're as glorious as that.
Mm.
All right, so now the Aztec civilization, they come up later, so this was chronologically Maya, Inca, Aztec, all right, and they're a nomadic people, all right, and they're coming from this area and they're traveling south to Mexico, but this is where they're supposed to have been from, and that's where they get their name. All right, that's why they're called Aztec, because they're from Aztlan. Okay? Now, as I say, they're a nomadic people, and they're just, they're wandering around. And the reason why they're a nomadic people is because there's a prophecy. And the prophecy is from their God, who says to them, you have to look for the sign. When you see my sign, then you will know where to settle. This will be the land that I'm giving you. And the sign that they're looking for, and they're wondering for hundreds of years, the sign that they're given is to look for an eagle perched on a cactus.
On a what?
Cactus.
What?
With a serpent in its mouth.
Oh my goodness.
How's that gonna happen?
So now do you see why they're wandering for so long?
Yeah.
All right, they're wandering for so long because they're looking for an eagle perched on a cactus with a serpent in its mouth. Well, guess what? Lo and behold, they come across such a sight.
Really?
And when they come across such a sight, this sight, they can't believe it, because where is he? He's on swampland. All right, so the land that in the prophecy that the God is going to give to them is on swampland, but you really cannot mistake that sign, right? Like, you don't run into that very often, do you? So, all right, so they saw the sign and they said, all right, this has to be it. We've got to settle here. This is the land that was given to us. It's swampland. So what they start to do, unbelievably, is they start filling in the swampland. You know what a pontoon is, right?
Yes.
So what they're doing essentially is they're making all of these pontoons and then filling it in with dirt and stuff, right? And do you know what they ultimately come up with once they get going on this?
It's like those pads.
Look at that.
This
will ya?
unbelievable city.
Wow, where?
In Mexico. This unbelievable city. This is the great Aztec city, and this is where Cortez comes. Okay? So they're building this great city, and they've got farming, completely mastered farming, and they're producing all of these crops, right? So as they're producing these crops, they're getting to trade with other tribes, and they're getting wealthy, and as they're getting wealthy, what are they doing? They're just gobbling up all the smaller tribes, and that's making them bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Yes, so they've got this huge empire. Yeah, these are floating gardens. It's the
That's
pontoon type things that they make. They made floating gardens. This is the caste system that the Aztecs have. Okay, so they've got their king and high priest. They have the royal family. They have their nobles, which would be their relatives, and then they have merchants and their craftsmen, and then at the bottom rung they have commoners and they have slaves. They have slaves, and the slaves would be the people that they take over.
No, not today.
Okay, and then there's something else they do with the people that they capture too that is more unpleasant than slavery.
Sacrifice.
They used to
Yep.
sacrifice.
Yes. All right, and they are polytheistic. They're polytheistic, and these gods, well, they need something really specific in order to be happy. What is it?
A virgin?
What?
A virgin? Blood.
A virgin?
A young virgin, a young
Oh,
girl.
yeah. Well, they need human blood.
They what?
They need human blood. Yes.
Human blood.
Yeah, human blood. It is the most purest form of thanking the gods for the great harvest that they're receiving. And so you see these temples, yeah?
But not
Yeah.
their blood.
Not their blood. So what they do is when they capture people, and this wasn't something that they did like they did it, and I'm not excusing it, believe me, but they did it for like their high holy days. They would sacrifice people. So it was a human heart. It was a human heart that they offered to the gods. It was believed that there was nothing. Here they are, these magnificent people that build these incredible things, but they believe this. They believe things like this. It blows my mind. It boggles my mind. So they develop quite an impressive empire, don't they? They become really, really strong and powerful and wealthy. Do they have gold?
Yes.
Yeah, they've got a lot of gold. Yeah, and they have jade. They have all kinds of they have all kinds of jewels, gems, precious metals, and all of that. So everybody's wondering, how could the Spanish come with a few hundred men and capture this great empire?
They had
Right?
weapons.
Well, there was a couple of reasons why. Okay? So when Montezuma meets Cortez, Cortez resembles
The
one of
God
the
that
ancient.
has to come.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
he does.
exactly right, Bob. He resembles one of the gods that is supposed to return, and there's a prophecy that the god will return. Now, this god happened to have been a fair-skinned, bearded deity,
Yeah.
and so, and it was the time of the prophecy to be fulfilled, and that, I guess, is history's greatest coincidence.
Mhm.
That he shows up right then. All right, so they welcome the conquistadors. They welcome them and offer them gifts and all of that. So that was the start of it. This is. Does anyone want to take a shot at that?
That's a good total.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the name of the god that was supposed to return right when Cortez comes along. All right, and then there's something else that plays into it. They've got horses and guns, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that something brand new? Do the Aztecs have guns?
No.
No, they
They don't have any
do
of that
not. And the horses, they're fighting on horses. That was terrifying. But, you know, even with all of those things happening, that wasn't quite what went wrong. Do you know what really wiped them out?
Smallpox.
Smallpox. That's
right.
exactly right. It was smallpox that wiped them out.
Yeah.
Do we want to know, because I've got to get the newsletter out Friday, so I want to create a series. Do we know what we want to do?
The languages would make sense to do following all of this. And then
Language?
Yeah.
I would love it.
All right,
And
so
then
we'll
go
do
into
the,
the women as another one.
and then we'll do the women, and then we could do the human brain, and then, all right, so that's how we'll handle it. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. I'll see you next